Hello. Hello. Is anyone out there? Is anyone out there? I want us to take a few minutes and, and just share this. I can see one person. This is basically going to be information, more of information, and so that we just see how do we move from here, given the new government directive, at least in our country, Kenya, and all over the world. What are some of the things that we can do to help our children? So invite someone out there, and we will be back. Hello. Yes, I can see we have someone there. God bless you for joining in. It's going to be a quick one, as I want us to basically brainstorm and just to give you ways on how it is for a survivor and to be able to just manage through it all, because it's never easy, but with the help of a community it can be very easy. And that's what I want us to talk about today. Amazing. Even as we wait for other people to join in, I simply want to take time and introduce Kara, because I know not everybody knows about Kara. Not everybody knows what Kara stands for or what it's all about, and yet the name can be out there, but people really do not know what Kara is all about. So Kara is basically an organization for rape survivors, and specifically in this phase, specifically for girls under the age of 14 and below, and this is simply because we cannot mix them all up, and so we have to deal with this age at this time until later on. But you might ask, what does Kara stand for? Kara basically is a Ma word for my international friends. Ma is one tribe, one beautiful tribe that represents Kenya beautifully, and people call it Masai, but of late we call it the Ma. And Kara basically means I am a warrior. It was important for me to come up with a name that basically kicks you out of being lonely. It was important for me to come up with a name that basically tells you, get up and believe in yourself. As a rape survivor, and many of you might know my story and some of you might not, but it's in the public domain. Just Google Terry Gubanga and you'll be able to get it. And I did not share it out of joy. I did not share it out of feeling like I have it all together and now I'm able to share. But I shared because it was a need. It was sharing for power. I needed to get back my voice. I needed to get back my strength. And more importantly, I needed to encourage another person. I needed to encourage another lady out there. I needed to tell someone, yes, you can. I needed to encourage someone and let them know, because I went through it, you have gone through it as well, you can rise. Yes, I know rape also happens to men out there, but Kara specifically deals with children under the age of 12. Yes, we do counseling to adults as well, but then we have a safe house. Now, Kara is a safe house. We have programs. We have there's inboard where we stay with these young girls. The government allows you, because we are under CBO, the government allows you to be with them for 3 years, and then after that they can, if they're not okay, then we continue to stay with them. But if they're fine, then we are able to start the process of reintegration, which at times can take long, because the family needs to be ready to receive the child back. And if the situation was caused by a family member, then again we have to look at what else can we do, how else can we move about this. So this is one of those groups or topic that very many people would not easily plug in, because people feel exposed, and especially if you've gone through it. But I want to encourage you to share even with your family members, because I know this is a situation that is affecting very many families, and yet people cannot just talk about it. But talking about it is actually where you receive your power, where you receive your strength. But then you also need to know, who do you talk to? What do you tell them? How do you even relate your information? But that burden on what to do with the information that has been passed is for you and I, that person who has not gone through sexual abuse, you know. But today, let us talk about the government directive. So now we have our children in the homes. What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to keep them safe? Are we supposed to ensure that they are locked in the house? What happens to their growth? They need to be out there. They need to be with other children. How do they go about this? Because we cannot just chain them. Yet, it is important. We are in a season of COVID, and with that is just a totally different ballgame. Because even before COVID, we were talking to several parents and finding out how else can they keep their children busy, and especially depending on the neighborhood that you live in. How can you keep the children busy without them having to really go outside and mingle with the perpetrators, so to speak? Mingle with the you and me who don't look like a rapist, and yet they're going to hurt on our children. How do you do it? How do you go about it? And it was posing to be such a huge challenge. We don't know how to go about it, but I want to encourage us. There are different things that we can do. For example, number one, I need to mention, maybe even before I go to number one thing that I need to mention is that a perpetrator looks like the guy next door. A perpetrator looks like the woman or the man next door. A perpetrator looks like a father or a mother. And that to me took me so long to grasp that. The first time that I was able to be in contact with a child who is talking about, you know, a father is the one who raped her, I just thought, this is insane. It cannot be, you know, this is a horror movie of some sort. But quickly I got to learn that this is a reality. It was happening in the child's life. It is happening in many other people's life. It is actually happening with spouses. So if it can happen to a spouse, how much more for a child? But then it was just so hard for me to comprehend that. So I thought, you know, maybe we should come out, and this is a conversation that we have to start talking about. But I also want to encourage the talkers that we need to move away from the table of talking and get to the table of action. Because it's been way too long that we are now in a space where everybody is talking about, this is a conversation we need to have, this is a conversation we need to have. When you look at 5 years ago, there was someone who was saying, this is a conversation that we need to have. But for how long are we going to have the conversation without having action put on the conversation, which is what we really need? And that is what drove me to begin Kara Olmurani as a safe house, because the conversation was ongoing, and I had done a lot of counseling to different individuals, and it was easy for them to come to me. Being a survivor of rape, I think it was easier to relate to me. And from that conversation table, I realized people are really slowing down. You're slowing it down, and you're trying to get the best way to do this and the best way to do this. But then I want to encourage someone out there, just start. Just start doing something that will be able to help a survivor today. In many of my posts, you will see me saying, remember teal. I want you to remember this color. 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 And there is a good reason why. Teal is the color that signifies rape. It is the symbol. It is that color when you see and you remember there is rape going on, or defilement, depending on the age. There is defilement going on out there. And what do? You who has not been touched, you whom it has not affected your family yet, and I say yet for a good reason, because of the statistics. You who doesn't know anything about it, just the way I was at one point in my life. Every time you see teal, you need to remember that I will either need to protect someone because I can see something is off somewhere, or I need to speak up for someone, or I need to support someone who is doing right by sexual survivors. 3 things. You either protect, you either support, or you either just be in that space where you're able to help someone who is going through this. People are not going to talk about it. People are, or they're going to talk about it and not do something about it. But more than just talk, speak up and say, hey, something is off. Why am I saying this? I'm talking to parents. I am speaking to you parents, I'm speaking to you aunties, you know. In fact, today I've just seen something very beautiful. Someone posted on Facebook and they said that, you know, they say, speak up, you know, they say, hey, don't die by yourself. Don't, you know, if rape happens, you need to say something. Until that person happens to be your husband who's done that, then you want to back out. Until that person is your brother who's the rapist, then you want to back up. At that time, no. They're not a rapist. This is my relative. So you start, now you're speaking on the rapist's behalf and not the one who has been done for that act, the one who is now a victim. That poses such a huge challenge. I want to encourage you today to speak out, and more than that, just push for some affirmative action. Something needs to be done. And that is why we exist as Kara. And there are beautiful other organizations out there that are doing what they're doing in order to be able to help sexual survivors. But then there's still so much ground to cover. But at least there is something that we are doing as a country, and even different parts of the country, something that they're doing. But I want to tell you, being on the ground, it is not enough. So back to what we were talking about. What can you do in order for you to be able to help your children, our children, who are stuck with us at home? And when I say stuck with us, it's not something negative, because many times parents were feeling, oh my God, until next year. For us, for example, here in America, we have been given a choice. You know, you either take your child to school or you continue with the online learning. And of course, many parents seem to be going for the online, but we do not know until the schools open. Now, I know back in motherland, we have not been given that choice, either school or at home. But we've been told they will be at home until next year. What does that mean to you as a parent? What does that mean to you as an aunt? What does that mean when your child has been quarantined with an abuser? What does that mean? And as I said, an abuser can be anybody. An abuser, you as a mother, can be the husband. An abuser, you as parents, can be a child. So siblings. An abuser can be the house manager that you've entrusted your child with for so long. An abuser can be that cousin who's come to stay at home with you. I want to encourage us today. Do not look far when it comes to thinking who is an abuser. No. Look within first, because statistics show that abusers are most of the people who are familiar to the child. That shopkeeper, you know, that neighbor that you leave your children with. The best thing you can do to your children in this season when they are at home, number one, is for you to have a sit down with them. Talk to your child every other day. If you cannot do it every day, but every day is important. That's why we have dinner together. That's why we have family altar together. So that you can ask, how was your day? You know, talk to me about your day. And allow your children to be as expressive as they can. As expressive as possible. Because it is during that conversation, it is in that conversation that you will be able to hear your child saying, someone touched me. Or someone bought for me a sweet. For example, I would encourage parents, don't allow your children to be bought for sweets by that neighbor. Just no. Tell them, we do not just take sweets. Always come and ask me for permission. Why am I saying that? And that might sound very harsh. But it's the only way where that abuser will not start making friendship with your child that will escalate into something awful. You don't want to regret. It is better for you to look like the crazy mother or the crazy father who doesn't even allow the children to be able to receive sweets or something. I tell my children, before you receive a sweet, you need to talk to me. You need to come and ask me for permission. And then you go on to explain. Don't just be the, don't just put your foot down and say, hey, this is what, explain. Explain to the child why this is important. Explain to the child why they need to come to you and ask you. Explain to them how a sweet can be laced. Explain to them what that friendship could turn out to be. Unfortunately, that's the conversation that we have to have. When you think that you are shielding your children from these things, you do not want to introduce it to them when they are now victims. So I want to encourage you, have these conversations around dinner tables, have these conversations around, your family altar, have these conversations at whatever time you want to, but have these conversations. And when you were saying have these conversations, I want to encourage parents, could you please don't tell your children that they have a flower, instead of a vagina or a penis. No, it doesn't work like that. Because when that time, they will start explaining things in a totally different way. Because they've given, there's this flower, then mine is also called a flower. I mean, just get straight to the point. And I know, and especially African parents, this seems to be a very heavy task. But it is so important to call their body parts as they are and teach them which are the parts that can be touched and which parts cannot be touched, and even the parts that can be touched, in what way. Teach them about their boundaries. Teach them what they can do and what they cannot do. The kind of conversations they should be involved in and the kind of conversations that they should not be involved in. And that, to be able to engage in watching cartoons with them, watching movies with them, because we were thinking, personally, I have been thinking that cartoons are the best things that happen to our children, until I got to realize that there's so much evil, so to speak, in the cartoons, that they teach our children so much. So they know so much, and you're thinking they're still young, but the cartoons are already exposing them to so much. Then how about you diving in there and then be able to explain to them the best way they can go about it? Now, how are we able to keep our children safe? Apart from the talk, and I'm talking about the extensive talk, there's a different way as well where we can engage them. Have games. Not everybody will be able to afford board games, but let me tell you, you can make board games. I don't know how many of us cannot make checkers. You can make checkers out of basically anything. The paper, the manila paper, the normal papers to be the checkers themselves. You can make different board games. So don't tell me you cannot afford the board games. Not everybody has a compound where the children can play safe. But if you have to have your children go outside, how about you also step out with them? How about you sit by the door and allow your children to play outside and feel the breeze, or feel, because it's important for them to be able to be on the outside. It's life on its own. How about you engage them with books? When the government says until next year, I could see parents complaining and saying, what are we supposed to do? So this year is just a waste. And I want to encourage you parents, it's not a waste. No, it's not a waste. There are different ways you can engage the children in book, because they don't go to school to go to the next level, but they go to school to expand their knowledge. So it's a good time for you to try them out on different things, including coding. There are very many free classes for coding. You just need to get into that into the internet and check them out. I know not all parents will be able to afford that, and that is why there are all these different options of the things that you can be able to do. Now, specifically, let me address the rape survivor, who is your child or that is you. If it is your child, it's a good time for you to continue to have these conversations. Ask them how they're feeling, because what happens with our children, they hear this news flying everywhere. 1 minute you cannot go to school. Why? There's corona. They don't even understand what corona is, because many times as parents, we don't take time to explain things to our children. We consider them to be too little to understand. So don't go to school, number one. Number two, there's corona. Number three, you can't go out and play freely. So there's all these things we're telling them, but we're not taking time to explain. And then now they hear, you're not going back to school until next year. Some of them don't even have the mental capacity to understand what you mean when you say next year. They do not know that we have a whole 6 months until next year. And if it goes by what happened with SARS took like 2 years for it to clear. So we really do not know about the future. But what can we do now to make it better for tomorrow? And that's why we need to keep them studying. And studying is not what you and I many times think, that it's about following that syllabus. Allow them to study in the kitchen when you're cooking. Allow them in there. Let them be partakers of it. When you're going to the market, allow them to be partakers in one way or another, if you know it is in a controlled environment, again, because of the virus. Allow them to be studying. Allow them to learn. That's a better word. Allow them to learn basically in your environment. You need to keep them so busy so that gadget is not the only thing they have, or playing with boys and girls, you know, depending on what sex of a child you have, that will be the only other option. And when I'm talking about playing, I'm talking about sexual playing. 2 days ago, a parent got in touch with me and said, Pastor Terry, my child, she has a daughter, my child was playing with our neighbor and my son upstairs. And what they did is that they, you know, later on, my baby girl, because the baby girl is 3 years old, the baby girl came and said the way they were kissing. They were kissing with the brother who is 5 years, and they were kissing with the neighbor son who is 7 years. And you know, they were just playing Chababa and Chamama, you know, which is basically, they were playing house for my international friends. They were playing house. What do you do in such a case? What do you do as a parent? See the importance of having these conversations before you get to have these conversations, because you need to quench the fire, because you need to cool off the fire. As you've always said, communication is always best when you're not trying to put out the fire. You need to have this conversation. So now she was wondering, how am I supposed to introduce this to them? She's only 3. And even that's why she reported, because she's completely innocent. And I said, do you know, was it a kiss? Was it a long one? You know, was it a peck? Was it a snort? What was it? And the mother said, I don't know. I just froze. And I want to tell you, anytime you're going through any kind of trauma, yes, you will do one of the 3 things. You will either fight, you will either fly, or you will either freeze. So yes, she just froze because she could not believe what the child was telling her. And because of freezing, she did not ask any other question. Later on, which was now yesterday, I told her, let's have this conversation, you know, have me on Zoom, let's have this conversation, and you know, I'll just come in as that auntie and we're just talking about playing house and everything. And I was able to unearth pretty much when we are just having this conversation. And you know, and she's interested that, hey, who is this that I'm seeing on TV? And while we are talking, I'm able to ask her this question, and she says, it was the long one, tongue involved and everything. What did they see? Where did they see these kind of things? I want to assume that this is from the cartoons they've been watching. This is from that movie when you play it, and you know, and not just that. It is from the talk that our children have, because they've been exposed to quite a lot of things. So yes, it is important for you to have this conversation. This lockdown should not be a sentence for your child to be a victim, or for you to be a victim. Talking to the adult who has gone through sexual abuse, I want you to be able to take back your power. I want you to be able to remember that I'm no longer a victim, but right now I am. I am no longer a victim, but I am a survivor. And now we are trying to push you away out of that box of just being a survivor. Why? Because you and I were not created to survive. No, we are supposed to thrive. That's why the Bible talks about we've been given life, and life in abundance. We are not just supposed to thrive, to survive, but we're supposed to thrive. And that is why we say, I am a warrior. Because after you're a victim, you get into being a survivor, and you go now to the next stage of being a warrior. And a warrior, what a warrior does is that a warrior is not safe from wounds. No, a warrior is not safe from tears. No. Warriors cry. Warriors get wounded. But one other thing that warriors do, they go back out and they're able to help someone else. Out of the pain they had, they know what they did at that point. So we strive that all survivors will be able to get to that place where they call themselves a warrior. Not because you're speaking to the masses, but even if you're speaking to one person, and that is you, an audience of one, I'm speaking to Terry, you are okay. You are more than enough. You need to get up and do something. Because it is in this season that depression has shot high up. It is in this season that suicide, you can hear quite a bit of it. It is in this season that we are hearing too many deaths. And I'm talking about murder. When someone is just, they just wake up and kill their children, kill a spouse. In this season, it is heightened because of the different kind of fields that we are going through. I want to encourage you to remember till. Either arise, either encourage another person, protect someone, or the least you can do, support. I truly get excited, blessed, when someone inboxes us on Olmurani or me personally and tells me there is someone who is going through this and I do not know how to help. That encourages me because it tells me you're not just looking above their head, but you're saying, what can I do? How can I be a part of your healing process? And that is what we need as a nation. That is what we need as a people. I wanted to be here for about 30 minutes and I can see I have about 4 minutes left. But next Wednesday, every Warrior Wednesday, I want us to be having a conversation. Next Wednesday, I'll be bringing in a lawyer who will be able to talk to us about the different things that they look out for if you want to pursue this legally speaking. I want to encourage you to hold a survivor's hand. Yes, it can be hard. Yes, you might not even know how to do it. But that is why you need to ask for help. That is why we will be having these conversations so that we move away from just talking, but having an action verb placed in it so that we are able to help a survivor out there. Our children don't have to be victim, but you need to play your part. You who has gone through it don't have to continue being a victim. You who has not gone through it and you're still you're an adult, you don't have to go through it. But sometimes things happen. Sometimes, tell you what, you can protect your child in every way possible. You can protect yourself in every way possible. But personally, I have counseled a couple that, thugs came in at night and they raped the mother and the 2 children. Yes, it can happen. What you and I need to know is that it is never your fault. No, let nobody tell you it is what you were wearing, it is where you were, it is that time. Why? Because when it comes to a rapist, and believe me when I say when it comes to a rapist, because one of the ministries that I do is prison ministry, and specifically I ask for rapists because it was a phenomenon for me. I needed to understand, where do you get the strength to rape a young child? Forget even about an adult. A child who is screaming, a child who is barely walking. Where do you get the strength? It is a spirit. It is something that backs them up. It is a spirit of narcissistic spirit where you just want to see someone suffer. In fact, many rapists have told me that when you are shouting, that makes it better for them. That makes the agenda successful. But when they get a calm person or someone who is cooperating, it makes them so mad because that's not the voice that they want to hear, because they are sadists. So don't open your mouth and start beating someone down and saying, let me tell you, one time I was about to be raped and I managed to escape, or I fought Thank God you fought and you were successful. Thank God there are those who fought and they're dead. But for you who is alive, I want to encourage you, keep fighting. There is a better tomorrow. There is a better afternoon. You don't even have to look at tomorrow. There is a better afternoon. There is a better next hour. That's all you need to live for. But this time, have this conversation. Please, please, please have these conversations with your children. Go to the extra mile. of calling the names of their body parts as they are. Go to an extra mile watching that cartoon, pointing out what is right, what is wrong. Go to the extra mile of having conversations that children should not be having. Go to the extra mile of having conversations that their uncles should not be having with them, that it is not right. Go to an extra mile of having conversation what gifts would mean and why gifts, all kind of gifts, sweets, name it, should go through you as an adult. You just don't have to be a parent. As an adult, go to an extra mile by ensuring, if, for example, you're in a plot setting, if you see this person always having these children at the house, go to that extra mile. Go that extra mile and say something is off here. Correct some things. Be called that one who is nosy, but go an extra mile. When you see teal, remember, it's need to spring you in action. Thank you so much for joining me. I know that's my 30 minutes. Next Wednesday, let's meet here at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's going to be an hour because I will be having a guest who will be able to speak to us on the legal bit of it. And after that, I will be able to have a police sergeant, by God's grace, who will be able to talk to us what it means, what they're looking for. You know, the samples, what are they looking for when you come in and say, hey, my child or myself, I'm a sexual victim. Then after that, I'm sure we'll be having someone who will be able to talk to us deeper on how we can keep our children, someone who works in the statistics of children and knows children, how they get lost and what leads to this, what is the highest statistic and things like that. These are conversations we need to have. These are conversations we need to put action to them, and we are doing just that. So thank you again for joining in. See you next Wednesday. Remember to share this with different people. It's not an easy conversation that people want to hear, but please allow it to be on their faces, and let's see what the Lord is going to do. So God bless you. Bye-bye.